Throughout the whole of the marketing campaign of Nightreign, there has been one common theme that has popped up. These humongous blokes. They've done what Michael Jackson couldn't. They are the key to understanding the nature of the rain and to understand the failures of the past. Not to mention so much more. I want to play a little game with you. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe right now as I think that's really bloody stupid. But if at the end of the video you have enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribe as it greatly helps the channel and it lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. Without further ado, grab some prawns and enjoy. One of the biggest themes inside of FromSoftware's games is cycles. The cycle of fire and dark inside of Dark Souls being the biggest example. This was kind of skipped over a bit inside of Elden Ring, but it comes back full force inside of Nightreign, which really makes a lot of sense considering the connection to Dark Souls within Nightreign, that being that they're the same universe. But what does cycles have to do with the giants? What do they have to do with the rain? Well, to put it simply, everything. Inside of Elden Ring, we're told on multiple occasions that the Nox want to create a Lord of the Night. The relic for Heolstor also is called Knight of the Lord. It's a very big play on words to what we see in base game with Lord of the Night. There are 3 item descriptions for silver tears. 2 of them mention silver tears being an attempt to create a lord. This all comes to a head when you see the final cutscene for Recluse. We see baby Heolstor, and it looks like a silver tear. We also learn from Recluse's quest line that the baby Heolstor consumed others and took their being within them. This is something that silver tears can do. Asimi is a character in a cut bit of Elden Ring's base game. She was a silver tear that you take into your very own body. You consume her and you become one with her. If you want to see how that quest plays out, I very much highly recommend you watch this video up on the screen right now. The main takeaway is the idea of silver tears binding to different beings is an idea that has been explored in the past and sounds very similar to what we see with Heolstor. What the Lord of Night is felt inside of Nightreign, for in base game Elden Ring they never succeed, yet in Nightreign's timeline they do. One question I've had ever since I started playing Nightreign is, how did the Nox know that this was going to happen? How did they know that such a phenomenon was even possible? Obviously there's a chance they just came up with it on their own. What I think is more likely is they learned from the past. And that is exactly where the giants that we see inside the skybox of Nightreign come in. It's no exaggeration to say that everyone has different opinions on the ending of Nightreign, and mine might be a little more different to what some other videos have said. The base ending ends with you presenting the Night Rune to a figure crouching on the ground. Upon doing this, you turn into light. You float away and you bring life back into the lands between. But it doesn't end there. The same little bits of light flicker onto a figure in the ocean. This figure turns out to be one of these shadowy giants. A lot of people look at FromSoftware's lore and see item descriptions. But something that is very key to their storytelling is environmental storytelling. In my eyes, it is very heavily hinting that we are inhabiting the body of this giant. Firstly, the only 2 walking alive characters we see are us and this giant. Secondly, the same sort of light that we float and become transitions into the Erd Tree's leaves which flow onto this giant. To me, this is the most likely explanation to the ending of Nightreign. But why is there only one giant? The answer to this question lies in the cutting gifted tribe. There is an item inside of Nightreign that has an incredibly low % drop. It is called the Cord End. The Cord End talks of a secret, a truth that was hidden away. The cord is from young girls that could not consent to this action, and yet they were used regardless. The Cutscene clan sacrificed their flesh and at the same time used the umbilical cords of these young girls. The cord end that we find is the result of this ritual. We can access a room using the cord end, which leads us to a very young girl, and when we loot the body, it drops 3 sacrificial twigs. The cord end is made of 3 umbilical cords, but this isn't the only place the cord end pops up inside of Nightreign. In fact, it pops up in the Great Tree. If you look at the cord end on the end, you'll see roots sprouting out of the bottom of the umbilical cords. If you then go and get a really good angle of the Great Tree, we finally get a few answers, for it is a big cord end. You can even see 3 separate trees, aka the 3 girls, wrapping around, branching outwards. The sacrifice of the clan's flesh and the sacrifice of the young girls has led to the ability of this great tree to appear. When we find the young girl, as we can only find one currently inside of Nightreign, they are fused into the earth. It reminds me very heavily of how Godwyn is attached to the great tree down in the deep root depths and is then able to influence other places far away from him through the roots. Sounds very similar, right? Indeed it does. But what is the purpose of this great tree? And why were these girls sacrificed to create it? The divine tree is the way we enter the spirit realm. This spirit realm is where we can fight the Night Lords, all the Night Lords. Without this divine tree, we would have nothing. We would have no way to fight them. With their sacrifice, even if they didn't want it, we are able to try and stop the night. But it isn't just the divine tree that their actions helped. There was also these shadowy figures. Bonfire VM recently uploaded a video using the camera mod that takes a closer look at these giants. I personally can't because I don't have a camera mod, so I will be using his footage. A link to the video will be in the comments and the top of the description. Inside of every single one of these shadowy figures is a tree growing. This tree looks very similar to the divine tree, which is linked to these children. As the days go by and dusk approaches, they become more visible. We can see markings on them and we can see they are created from roots. The fact that as the divine tree grows, so do these people become more visible is, in my opinion, no coincidence. I believe the most likely answer here is these giants, these shadowy figures, are the cutting gifted tribe clan members who sacrificed their flesh. Inside the crypts inside the Round Table hold is the same sort of material that's seen in the room that holds the young girl. On one of the tablets it says, "To atone for the first sin, we elect to become the foundation." The girls were forced into this, so that means this is most likely talking about the shadowy figures. Now on why and how they are the foundation and what that has to do with the process of stopping the night, we really can't know because we're not given enough information. Perhaps in the DLC, which is coming later this year, we'll get some more insight. The Cutting Gifted clan are the Nox. I've seen people say this and then other people try to debunk it, but to me it seems very, very likely. The Primordial Night Lord rune talks about how the Cutting Gifted tribe saw the sin of the Erd Tree and they were punished. The very same thing happened with the Nox. They committed treason and they were punished. It all seems very likely that they are the same thing. This is all without mentioning that the Newman and the Nox are related, and so they would be the best people to have information on how to stop the night, because that is what they wanted to do. As we talked about earlier in the video, the Nox are the ones that created Heolstor, wanted to create a Night Lord. But if the Cutting Gifted tribe are the Nox as well, how does that make sense? The Nox want a Lord of Night. They do not want an Age of Night. In fact, it talks about how they want an Age of Stars, the same thing Ranni wants. I believe the creation of the Night Lord was a way to try and prevent the night. For in the Primordial Night Lord rune, it talks about how the Cutting Gifted tribe didn't want the night, how they knew about it and anticipated it and tried to prevent it. And I believe that is the reason Heolstor exists. He was the one that was supposed to stop the night and contain it within himself, for he does possess the Primordial Night rune. The circumstances leading up to the Nox getting this rune are very unknown, but I think it's very likely this is the high treason they talked about in base game, that they stole the Night rune. And for a time it seems he did. There was a great battle and everyone he loved and cared about died. He lay across their bodies and in despair screamed at the sky and brought forth rain. Who this mysterious hero that wanted the night to happen, who wanted Heolstor to lose control and release the night, is completely unknown. But regardless of not knowing them, the point stands and the night was released. The very fact they knew that it was coming, that they anticipated it, suggests that this has happened before. That the whole event of a Night Lord, an Age of Rain, it's all happened previously. Perhaps that event was the very sin of the Erd Tree the same description talks about. Hell, maybe even the massive giant skeletons we see inside of Caelid and the mountaintops, maybe they are the ones that tried to stop the night previously. I mean, they are in similar shape to the ones we see in Nightreign, but that is very heavy speculation. I want to talk again about the ending cutscene. The night has happened multiple times, and so there needs to be safeguards that can be used by the future generations to stop the night. The Cutting Edge tribe sacrificed themselves, their flesh, their young, so the current night could have a way to be stopped. And when we present the night rune, they disappear. They get the rest that they deserve for their sacrifices that were inhumane but necessary for the survival of the world. And then we become the new sacrifice. We are now in charge of looking after the world until the next night comes. And when eventually it does come, we will be the foundation that leads to the divine tree growing from the sacrifice of the cut and gifted clan, and the night can be stopped once more, in most likely the same way that we ended it in our playthrough. We only know of 2 possible nights that have happened, but there is most likely plenty more. How they stopped the coming night before the Cutting Gifted clan sacrifice is really unknown and very much up for debate. Perhaps they use a similar method, perhaps not. Perhaps they went down the Age of Dark route, where eventually the age passed and a new age came about. But again, very much up to speculation, and I'm really curious to see what you all have to say. Just another little nugget, if you actually look at the shadowy figures, you'll notice they have fingerprints on them. These fingerprint markings are linked to the fingers, obviously, because they're fingerprints, which are linked to divinity. Considering they're linked to the Great Tree, which is also a divine tree, it makes sense why it would be there, and it further proves the connection that the Cutting Gifted clan was connected to divinity. Which makes a lot of sense, considering the Newman and Nox are, by proxy, associated with divinity as well. Sadly everyone, that is the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, as it greatly helps the channel and it lets me know you're enjoying this style of content. If you didn't enjoy, drop a dislike and some constructive criticism, as I really do want to improve these videos for the next one. I'm not going to do dadly anymore, friends. Please don't you dare go hollow, and may you find your worth in the waking world. See you in the next one, and goodbye.